back to the Stick 'em Up podcast. Brundi, we are solidly into the new year now. Teams are back. They've been playing games for a bit. We got a little bit of news going around the league. I have no particular spot I want to start with. We got some World Junior news. We got some NHL news. Do you have anything you want to start with?
You know what? It just wrapped up last night, so we'll get it out of the way early. World Juniors is wrapped up. United States winning the gold medal once again, first time ever in back-to-back years, defeating Finland in a great overtime game to end the tournament. So obviously Finland winning the silver medal, as well as earlier in the day, Czechia surprising everyone, defeating Sweden in a shootout to win the bronze medal.
I think it was in the 14th round of a shootout as well. Like
the longest shootout in World Juniors history, they were saying.
Yeah, 14 rounds, no doubt. Great goal, considering it was the 14th shot, or I guess it would be like 28th shot at that point. Nice forehand, backhand move. Who scored? It was like, is it Saleh? Is that how you say his last name?
Yeah.
I was actually looking into him. He's a first round pick 1 year ago, I believe, by the Seattle Kraken. They got some good young players coming up in Seattle.
They do. They have a lot of exciting prospects in the mix, and this tournament really highlighted that.
Yeah, like for being relatively competitive, like they're probably not a playoff team, but like they're not that far away from being one. They got a lot of young talent coming up, so they might be a sneaky good team in a few years, which, you know, being an expansion team would be very fun to see. But yeah, like there was a lot of outstanding play throughout the World Juniors. You know, of course, one of the main narratives right now is Hockey Canada and how they put the team together, how the coach responded about discipline and all that. But like, remember after that very first game? Remember after Canada beat, who was it, Sweden 4-0? And everyone is just buzzing. They're just, man, how good is the World Juniors? And unfortunately, we didn't get to see a ton of the great play like that from Canada again, but it was all over the rest of the tournament. The Finnish goalie absolutely balled out in that final game. Like,
should have won MVP of the tournament, in my opinion. Ryan Leonard of the Americans ended up winning MVP. And it's not even in the World Juniors. It's not even like, you know, always, the MVP always has to be a player on the winning team. And I thought Leonard had a great tournament, but in my opinion, I mean, Rimpinen had some of the craziest numbers from a goalie we've seen in a while in the World Juniors, and, you know, really was the sole reason. And don't get me wrong, Finland played great throughout the tournament, but he was the sole reason that Finland was even in the gold medal game. And not only that, to have it go to overtime and have the chance to win, like, he made incredible saves throughout the game to even get it to overtime. And then a few like top-notch saves, even just to keep Finland in the game in overtime. And this was a goalie as well. Like he got passed over in the draft, right? He was already eligible. You know, the entire draft goes by, all 7 rounds. No team selects him. So I'm very curious to see kind of where his stock is, you know, where it's going to end up being come the draft this year in 2025, because he was just exceptional, like the entire tournament. And again, the biggest reason for Finland walking away with a silver medal.
And I do wonder, like, do you think, like, is there really a top goalie in this upcoming draft that's kind of like really known? Like, is there a goalie that might go in the first round, or is the first goalie going like third round? Because like,
there's a couple Canadian goalies. There's a couple that, for me, there's none that I think are going in the first round. You know, because again, with goalies, like to go in the first round, right? Like you really have to be like an exceptional goalie. Like, basically, you have to be so good that teams are like, yeah, we can't pass up on you. If we get the ability to grab you, like you're a bona fide, for sure, gonna be a starter in this league, right? So I don't really think there is I mean, there's going to be goalies that are going to become starters out of this draft, I think, but I don't think there's any that are like a for sure bet, like, oh, they're guaranteed to. So probably not again. We didn't last year in the draft, so in 2024. So I don't think like probably I think the second round there's going to be quite a few, but right now I don't believe we're going to be seeing any in the first round.
I'm just looking at it now, and the only goalie I'm seeing that people really have going too high is Joshua Ravensbergen, which I believe did he play in the tournament?
I believe so.
That name seems very familiar. He is Canadian, so he would have played on the Canadian team. But
then no, he didn't. No, he didn't. Then.
But
I think there was a goalie that lasted him on another team, but if he's Canadian, then yeah, no, he was not on the team.
But yeah, I mean, it's so fun to see. There's always great young players score and highlight real goals and stuff, and that's all awesome. But like, I love seeing these goalies go crazy in that tournament, and there's usually at least one every year. And yeah, just hats off to him. He played so well and nearly not necessarily dragged his team, but he almost stole that last game for him, especially, which would have been huge.
Yeah. If you're a Washington Capitals fan, you would have loved this tournament, as you know it's already kind of highlighted by the play of Ryan Leonard throughout the tournament, and even Cole Hudson on the blue line. But they had so many other prospects. Like, I'm not going to name them off because they had so many across a bunch of different countries that were just phenomenal. And like us outside of Ryan Leonard, all their prospects that play good were all from the 2024 draft. Like, almost their entire draft class that they drafted. Surprisingly, the only outside of their first round pick is I think it was Parasek they drafted. He was not in the tournament, but from the second round on, like, almost all their picks played in the tournament, and a lot of them played really well. So, the prospect pool that the Capitals have is just already skyrocketing. Again, like, you're drafting guys in the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round, and they go to the World Juniors and they ball out. Like, it's looking like they might have gotten a couple steals. So, on top of them already having a terrific season in the NHL, and going beyond everyone's expectations for them, pretty much, to now see so many prospects just kind of blossom out of nowhere, is incredible for them. And the fact that, again, Ryan Leonard, who played great in the tournament, probably going to be signing with Washington after the college season is done. So, the last couple games of the regular season and, playoffs, because I'm assuming Washington's going to be a playoff team, they're going to get to insert him into the lineup, which is, definitely has a possibility of being a very big ad for them.
Yeah, like I would feel better about them having so many prospects doing well if they weren't also killing it this year in the regular season. Like, they're currently at 55 points. The Golden Knights are leading the league in points at 57. They're one win behind them. That's it. Like, they have a bid for the President's Trophy. Like, that's insane.
Yeah.
Like,
here it was.
So yeah, that's nuts for the Washington Capitals.
Cole Hudson had a goal the other night, and that was his 11th point of the tournament. He set a record for most points by an American defenseman in World Junior history in a single tournament. So,
yeah, like,
you're already seeing Lane Hudson dominate the NHL, and it's looking like his younger brother, again, another defenseman who fell to the second round, is looking like he very well could be the steal of the draft here for Washington. So, if you're a Capitals fan, like, the turnaround in a year, from where the franchise was looking like it was and where it's going, is completely in the other direction now, in a good way. So, that's just great for them. Like, you very rarely see a complete 180 turnaround like this, and they managed to pull it off. So,
it's actually kind of funny because there was we did our predictions for the playoffs last year, right? And
Yeah.
we had a lot of predictions that were close, were similar, some were very different. There's one that we both had, and that was the Capitals are getting swept in the first round by the Rangers, and they
I
did.
didn't. I didn't.
Oh, you didn't have that?
No, I had Rangers in 6 or 7. I thought Washington
Really?
was gonna I thought that series was gonna be a war, and Washington was really gonna. Yeah, I thought Washington was actually gonna put up a fight. I didn't think they were gonna win, but I know for sure I did have Washington put up a fight, and I looked very
Oh, I
wrong
definitely
in
thought
that
we agreed with that because
prediction.
that was my only sweep prediction. I think it might have been the only sweep, at least in the first round. But um, they got swept by the President's Trophy winning Rangers. They somehow made the playoffs with like a goal differential of like minus 37 or something. You
Okay,
look
never
at
mind.
all.
I had Rangers in 5,
Okay,
so
in
I had
five,
Washington winning
you
one
had him
game.
steal. You had Lindgren stealing him one.
Actually, I think that was actually the sole reason.
I imagine so. But like that, all that evidence points towards the Rangers would be good again this year, and the Caps continue to get older, continue to decline. Ovechkin, John Carlson, like they can't keep it up. Who would have guessed? Like in our preseason predictions for this year, there's a decent chance that we had them exactly swapped. The Capitals are in first and the Rangers are in seventh. I might have predicted the Rangers in first and the Capitals in seventh. And we're now 40 games into the season.
Yeah.
Like, it's unreal how bad the Rangers have been this year, but it's even more unreal how good the Caps have been.
Yeah, like again, like can't say it enough just how incredible um this Capitals team is really like everything is going right for them, and honestly couldn't be happier for them. Like, you know what? Uh they were doing what they had to, obviously, with Ovechkin. Because he's obviously going to stick around with the team. He's still going for that goals record, so you might as well make the most of it and try to, keep in the fight and try and go on another run. And it looks like they're going to do that. I really didn't think the moves they made in the offseason were going to lead to this, but you
Yeah.
know what? Between not only the talent they have, the depth, and the surprising kind of coming up of some younger players that are really establishing themselves, like Protest and McMichael, they're getting really good coaching by
Yeah.
Spencer Carberry. So, like,
Yeah.
it's just a
They're,
great time to be a Caps fan, honestly.
yeah, it really is. And a team that has a bit less to cheer for these days. However, they are currently on a 4-game win streak right now. The Detroit Red Wings. We did miss it last episode. This happened a little bit ago now, but they fired Derek Lalonde as their head coach and brought in Todd McClellan, who was the head coach of the LA Kings for quite a few years there. He hasn't been there for very long, but I mean, at the very least, he's got them on a 4-game win streak at the moment. It seems to be going better. They're slowly starting to catch the other teams in the division. You know, they're only 1 point behind the Canadiens, 2 behind the Sens, 4 behind the Lightning. So they're making up some ground.
Yeah, and I mean, like, this is one of the things they had to do. I think they had to make a coaching change.
Yeah.
And during this time, no other team, I mean, maybe kind of the Rangers, but that's about it. We're kind of looking at, maybe making a coaching change. So Detroit kind of had their pick of all the guys there, and whoever they reached out to was going to take the job, because I don't think, for the remainder of this season, there's probably not going to be many other jobs opening up for coaches. So they get a guy like Todd McClellan, who I think kind of, fits the bill almost for exactly the kind of coach that they were looking for. So yeah, like, I really like this move for the Red Wings. I was reading that this is Todd McClellan's third team he's gone to as the coach, where Cam Talbot is the starting goalie. That was the case when he went to Edmonton, when he went over to join the LA Kings, and now with the Detroit Red Wings. So McClellan and Talbot are just a dynamic duo that they end up everywhere together, it seems.
I wonder if they both like that. I wonder if they both like that, or
I think so. I think especially if you're a goalie, right? Like, if you're the goalie, you're not disassociated from the team, but you are a bit more so in the games as opposed to a player. Like when you're a goalie, you're just kind of in the net, whereas you're on a player on the bench. Like you're, sometimes getting praised by the coach, sometimes getting ripped by the coach. But as a goalie, like, you're just kind of like, hey, you know what? If he's pissed off at me, I hope I'll hear it later or something. Like, so.
Yeah, that's
And
fair.
I got to imagine, like, most of the time, there's obviously those few rare cases, but usually there's never really bad relationships or like ones where, players and coaches hate each other. And, you know, to especially go from Edmonton together, now you're in LA together, like, there's probably already a little bit of that bond. And now, to be, yeah, now reuniting in Detroit again. I got to imagine they've probably had a good laugh about it.
Yeah, like, yeah, it's just a wild circumstance to be following with a coach around, especially. Some players end up on the same team, but three times with a goalie and a coach is kind of wild.
And like you've seen the cases
But they've been good.
where, you know, when coaches get hired or players get traded somewhere, sometimes it does have a lot to do with either a coach or a player already being on one team. We kind of saw that with Phil Kessel when he was leaving or going to be getting traded out of Pittsburgh. The only team he's willing to go to was the Coyotes because Rick Tocchet was there, and that was the coach he wanted to go and play for. They already had a good relationship. He's like, if you're going to trade me, please trade me there so I can be the coach. Like, you know,
Yeah,
Talbot's not being like, hey, let's bring in Todd, and Tom McClellan's not anywhere being like, oh, we got to get Talbot as our goalie. They just kind of naturally just both end up there. With no real connection to one, kind of trying to bring the other one in or anything. So
yeah,
full
that's
circle moment for them. And yeah,
yeah, it
like you
really
said,
is.
the team has been on a roll 4 in a row. You said
Yeah, four in a row.
that might be the longest win streak of the season.
If I had to guess, yeah, they're
I'd be shocked if it
17,
isn't.
18, and 4, so probably.
Oh,
And
it
you know
has
what?
to be then. Yeah.
It's coming at a real nice time for them. The Bruins, the Lightning, both on 4-game losing streaks. The Sens on a 2-game losing streak. Uh, Giving himself a chance at the playoffs still. They're not out of it.
Is the California death trip back? They're starting to be a thing again. Because I know players
It
always said
feels
that
like
was
it.
always one of the hardest road trips of the year, going through Anaheim, LA, San Jose. Obviously, that being back in the early to mid 2000s when all three of those teams were making the playoffs every year in a force. But both New Jersey and Tampa recently going through the California road trip and both coming out 0-3 in that stretch.
Yeah. Yeah, it was nice to hear that the Devils also did that. The Lightning usually play really bad in their Western Canada road trip, and this year they played really well, and I'm so glad they did because if they lost, 3 out of 4 games there and then lost these 3, like we'd be in trouble. So,
Yeah,
luckily
they'd
we've
be in a tough spot.
luckily we've set ourselves up to be in not a bad spot still, but they got to start winning some games. Like the Kings game, honestly, they outplayed the crap out of the Kings. The Kings are just so good at shutting down scoring chances that they just ended up squeaking one out. But the Sharks and the Ducks game both they needed to go out there and win that. The Ducks game was honestly pathetic to watch. A lot of guys were not trying.
Yeah.
That was a tough watch.
Well, speaking of the LA Kings and the Anaheim Ducks, we got a little bit of news for both teams. I'll take care of the LA one. I'll let you do the Ducks one afterwards. But the LA Kings put forward Arthur Kaliev on waivers yesterday, I believe it was, and today he was claimed by the New York Rangers. Kaliev obviously getting injured prior to the start of the regular season, and therefore has not played a single game yet so far this year. So he comes off IR, and the Kings don't really have a spot for him. So, unfortunately, a player that has had flashes of success in the league, and I think there's still a lot of potential there at only, again, 23 years old, finds himself going to the New York Rangers. Um, Hopefully, it's Kaliev gets a fair and good opportunity to prove himself in this league and prove that he can be a regular and a potential impact player. I think he's got a very good shot. And for the Rangers, I mean, why not at this point, right? Like, you got a little bit of money freed up from Trouba, and I mean, with where you're at now, like you're going back and forth between 7th and 8th in the division. You might as well try something and see if you can potentially get a good player for free here, and hopefully a guy that can make an impact for you, as they need all the help they can get right now.
Yeah, they absolutely need to. And this felt like the first waiver pickup in a while where, like, I feel like over the last, like, maybe year-ish, there's been a lot of players that go on waivers and everyone online is like, no way he clears. This guy will not clear waivers. Somebody's going to take him. And then they just keep clearing. There's so many of those guys. It's like everyone's like, somebody's going to take a flyer on this guy, and nobody does. It feels like the first one in a while where a team actually did. And the Rangers obviously pretty low in the standings right now. They were, I think, the 6th or 7th team to get dibs on him. So obviously, teams like the Sabres, the Islanders, the Sharks, the Blackhawks, the Ducks, not the Ducks, actually. I think they're doing pretty good. All got dibs first, and they said nope, and the Rangers said yes. And yeah, I guess we'll see what Kaliev can do over in New York.
Yeah, really, that's about it. I think I'm hoping Kaliev gets a fair opportunity. Obviously, we know with the Rangers that as of late, obviously some disgruntled players there, and players being vocal about not getting opportunities they feel they deserve and whatnot. So, and more than anything, they don't have the best history of developing players. And Kaliev obviously is still, very young at 23 years old, and especially at this point in his career, can probably use a little bit of help and guidance from a coach or management. So hopefully the Rangers can do that and do right by him. Because again, I believe this is a guy that I think can, realistically, and this isn't even a bad thing. Like, realistically, his ceiling, or where I think he probably could end up being, is if he plays all 82 games, 20 goals, 45-ish points, like a solid middle sixer.
Middle six guy, yeah.
That can probably be a pretty impact guy on the power play. A little bit more open ice and a great shot. So
not everyone has to be a superstar. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. If you can get that guy for free, that's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, so hopefully he gets an opportunity with the Rangers, and hopefully they do right by him. And again, they need all the help they can get. So this is, it's a free player. It's a free pickup. You're not giving up any assets. So, hey, why not, right?
Yeah.
And I think someone I don't know who, but I think someone recently got injured for them, so they don't even have to put anyone on waivers or make a roster move. Whereas, any other of those teams below that, already have a full roster at the moment, if they claimed Kaliev, they would have to, put someone else on waivers, right? And, kind of looking at those teams, I don't see why Chicago didn't be like, hey, fuck it, why not? Let's take a chance on this guy. Would have made a lot of sense in Chicago to me, I think. I thought that would have been a perfect fit for him. And what does Chicago need? They need more guys that can put the puck in the net. So,
yeah, I don't know if they just didn't care to do it or if they don't think he's going to be that guy. But yeah, some of the guys, reason. Yeah, some of the guys that don't get claimed for quite a while on the waiver wire, it's kind of like, really, you didn't pick them up for anything? Like,
yeah,
not even try. But yeah,
again,
maybe
it always comes down to. Exactly, right? Like, if you're a team and you're sitting there happy with your guys, like, you don't want to bring someone in and be like, all right, now we got to pick someone else and be like, hey, you haven't even done anything wrong, but you're getting put on waivers and either going to the AHL or we're losing you, type of thing, right? So, but for the Rangers, again, I like it. But let's move off to the Anaheim Ducks in a very interesting scenario. I can't say I've ever seen something like this before.
Yeah, the team that the Rangers sent their captain Jacob Trouba to, the Ducks, they re-signed, or rather they extended Frank Vetrano, they gave him a 3-year extension, which kind of surprised me because I know for this year and basically all of last year, people were waiting for him to get traded. Broke out. I think he had like 37 goals or something. Like shattered his career high. Looked really good. Would have been a
37
nice
goals, 60 points.
Yeah, like would have been a nice deadline at acquisition for a team. But no, they just extended him. The AAV for the contract is $6 million over 3 years. However, they did something that to my knowledge, we have not seen an NHL team do, but we have seen it in other sports, mainly the MLB with Shohei Ohtani's contract. Frank Vetrano, so it's $6 million AAV, but the cap hit is only $4.5 million. The rest of it, the cap hit is 4.5 for the 3 years on his contract. They never have to make up that AAV. That's just the cap hit because they are paying him. I want to say it's $3 million, so half of the money over the contract.
It's 900,000 per year over 10 years for the deferred money. Is what was initially reported.
I was seeing that he was getting half, like $3 million over the next 3 years, and then for 3 years starting in 2035, then he'll basically get that contract again. 25 in 35, 36, 37, he'll get $3 million those years, and that'll make it up.
Yeah, because what I read when it was reported was it's still the same thing though. In 2035, he gets 900,000, but it's over 10 years, and his plan is to obviously move out of California and basically move to a tax-free,
a Nevada, a Florida, one of those places. Because if you're making that money way later, you can move somewhere else and you can not get taxed on it or whatever. So it is very interesting that that they're going with this, and I fully expect in the next NHL Players Association meeting for that to be brought up, and for the next collective bargaining agreement, they'll see if they can, do they want this, because it really benefits the team for cap hit, and it benefits the owner for paying later. It does not benefit the player. I'm seeing people.
It's not bad for Vetrano. I mean, especially whether it is the $3 million per year over 3 years starting then, or it's over the 10 years. Like, the fact is, like, that's he plays out this contract, he's probably gonna be able to sign another, because he's 30 right now, so he'll be 34, so maybe another 3-year deal, get some more money, and then once he's kind of retired and once he hits that age of 40, I mean, all of a sudden, boom, now he's retired and he's still getting paid.
There are plus sides to it, but on the whole, I do think it is worse for the player. He could have just got $6 million on his contract. How
much would he be paying in taxes? I don't know for California, but
so I did see a couple breakdowns, and the majority of people seem to agree that basically, I don't know exactly the channels they do it through, but a lot of NHL players and just sports players in general, or even just rich people making that kind of money, they will make more money reinvesting that in like with banks, like with low risk things. Like they have some banker guy do it all for them, and basically you make more money reinvesting than he would saving it in taxes, because he gets it in 2035. Like, that's 10 years that he could be investing an extra $9 million or whatever it is into different things. I have no idea the exact numbers on how much he would save or make potentially with investments, but
there's always a risk with that. Whereas
Sure.
This is like when he's retired and he's done playing and he's just chilling, he's still getting just $9 million straight up. Well, not straight up, but like over 10 years, like he's getting that $9 million, and it's all just going right into into his pocket, and that's. I see both sides to it, but it's kind of sick to think of like even when he retires and he's done, he's like, yeah, I'm still getting a bunch of big paydays rolling in, even though I'm no longer playing, right?
On concept and stuff, but it also, if anything, it also does make it weird for the league. Like they're just paying him that money later, and they just don't. They're just paying him more than the cap hit. Like so,
Mhm.
I definitely think it's a type of loophole that will be closed at some point.
And I believe with the way that this contract's structured, I believe that even if he was bought out, I think all he would like. I don't like. Obviously, it would all be affected for the duration of the 3-year extension. But I think all like that 9 mil that starts to roll in 2035, I don't think that's even affected if he gets bought out.
Uh, no, it wouldn't because
That that
buying
would that
out
would
really
that that
just
would all just be
yeah,
guaranteed money for sure. So even if he
yeah.
gets if he's,
Well,
gets
because you're
injured or
guaranteed your
something,
money
gets
either
bought out,
way.
like
If you get bought out, you
well,
still
yeah.
get all your money. But
Well, yeah, but
yeah, it wouldn't. Buying out is to keep the cap hit down, which I guess it would do in this situation, but it wouldn't affect. Yeah, it wouldn't affect that later money.
yeah.
So it's a very it's a
It's a
news
very
story I was
weird
not
it's a
prepared.
weird structured contract. We've never seen one like that before.
You are looks like you are correct at the start of 2035. He will make 900K for 10 years. Yeah, because California does have the highest tax rate in all of uh, the U.S. For top earners. So, but yeah, that's crazy. So by the end of the contract, by the end of everything, he will have gotten $18 million, and his cap hit for 3 years is 4.5 mil. That's
Yeah.
that's something that teams are going to be looking at. Um,
I was surprised to see how many people are like, "Oh, I," kind of shocked that the Ducks extended him. It was like he was the moment they didn't trade him at the deadline last year, you knew he was sticking around with the Ducks for a little while longer. Just because of the fact that, what like realistically, if they traded for Toronto at the deadline now, what would you get? You'd get uh, a second,
give up a first if I was
a
going for
s-
the cup.
second and a lower level prospect. Whereas last year at the deadline, they had not. I don't. They never said what team, but there was an offer of a first, a third, and a prospect for him.
Yeah,
And the Ducks were like, no, we're going to hold on to him. So, if you traded him now, it just wouldn't make as much sense. So, it you know once he wasn't traded, it was like, all right, he's going to get re-signed at an extension or whatever at some point, and they're going to hold on to him for a little while longer because again, if you can get a haul like that for a guy who's um you know was having a really terrific year last year and great player, but you're probably not getting 37 goals out of him again. To not cash in and get a lot of good assets back for him, you kind of figured that, especially with them being a younger team, they were going to hold on to a player like Vetrano. And
yeah,
again, for how young of a team they are, I think they made the right call holding on to him. His offensive numbers aren't as good as last year. They're still very solid,
yeah.
but it looks from the defensive side, it looks like his game is really you know taken that next step in terms of playing on the defensive side of the puck, which I think is huge for Anaheim and a team that has struggled a lot defensively over recent years. So, guy kind of does it all, and obviously very well liked by his teammates. He's a great leader. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
they
you
need
lock
some
him in,
leadership.
and again, 30 years old, 3-year extension, like all day.
Yeah, it
You do
it
that all
makes a
day.
lot of sense for him. And I guess my thing with this is, do you think other teams are going to start doing this right away? Like, do you think this is something that maybe in a few years we see another one, or like, do you think Marner's extension is affected by this? Like, I'm sure Toronto's got a lot of taxes stuff going on there.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm curious. Yeah, I'm not quite sure.
like, could you imagine Toronto getting Marner for 8 more years at like they could I have no idea if there's amounts you can get him down to, but like, could they get him down to 8 mil as a cap hit and then pay him 13 mil and just defer that to later. Like it's not a huge headline right now because it's the Ducks and Frank Vetrano. Frank Vetrano's good, but he's not a game breaker. And the Ducks are probably not making the playoffs at least this year. So
yeah,
there's
like
not a lot of
I'm
people talking about
curious.
it, but
Like I'm
if they
wondering if
did
this
that,
is I'm wondering if there's already something about this. Like you can do this, but you can only do it for like a 3-year deal, or you can only do it if the AAV is, maybe the AAV literally is like 6 mil, and then you can do something like this. Like we've never seen anything like this before, so I don't know if there's certain, you know, rules or things you kind of got to adhere to when you're doing something like this. But like if there's nothing in the book about it, like, yeah, if you're a team like Colorado, if you're
McDavid's
Toronto sitting
contract,
there with, yeah, like, and if you're
like
sitting there going into this offseason with guys like Rantanen and Marner, and then, uh, even Bouchard for Edmonton this year, McDavid next year, like, you got to be like, shit, you know what? We could put together some pretty fun stuff here trying to structure it like this. Yeah. Yeah, I'd be curious to know because I'm not sure if there's anything about how you can go about doing a contract like this.
I
If
don't
there's
think there
certain
is.
things you
I think
gotta,
that's why teams are able to do it because like it would make sense. Like even if like because the Ducks are getting about 1.5 mil in cap relief. It's he making an AAV of 6 mil, but the cap hits 4.5. It would make sense if the 3 years after the contract they had to pay that 1.5, or even in like the 2035 or something, they lose that cap space. But there's just like all that extra cap space that just never gets accounted for. I really don't think there's anything written into the NHL rules about it. And so I think they're either going to have to close it real quick, or there might be some teams that if they're ballsy enough to do it, they might make some crazy deals. Like
yeah,
a lot of
yeah.
the
I
guys
really
that are
got no
getting
idea.
it.
So I'm curious to see what might be coming down the wire pretty soon here over the next couple of months.
Yeah, cuz so, Vetrano's making 900K for 10 years. I don't think there's a rule that has to be the case. They could have signed it that he gets 9 million in 1 year in 2035. Like I don't think there's any rules stopping the Oilers from being like McDavid has a 1 mil cap hit and we're going to give him $100 million in 20 years or something like that. They probably wouldn't do that. The owner would make them lower it to, over some time because, who can just pay that lump sum that easily, even if you're a billionaire? They're too greedy, but uh,
Why
something
wouldn't
crazy like
teams
that.
already done this
I think
before
just
then? Is what I'm
I
wondering.
think just nobody's thought to do it. And I think now that, they did it with Shohei Ohtani, I think a couple other players have done it in the MLB since that happened. And I'm wondering if all of a sudden you're going to see a lot of it for 2 years and then that loophole's going to get closed.
Yeah, I got to imagine that. Yeah, this is gonna be something that they're gonna try and shut down pretty quickly because, yeah, like the possibilities for some of these guys, like, is
It
yeah,
throws the salary cap out the window basically.
it
Like
100% does. Yeah,
because there's no certain guys that can do it and some guys that can't. Like I guess you get less benefit if you do it somewhere like Florida because guys aren't going to be able to move and avoid the taxes, but like you can still do it and they'll get their money all the same. It's just you keep the cap hit down. So I I wonder if this is one of the rare cases where we see Bettman come out and be like, okay, usually we wait to deal with this, but like we need to have like emergency meeting and fill this ASAP. Like
yeah,
if there's any rumors that Marner is going to extend and defer salary, or if McDavid's next contract, or any huge player, I think it could get out of hand very quick.
I
Um,
completely agree. Yeah,
but definitely something to keep an eye on because it's not something that I didn't even consider it coming into the NHL when I heard about that in Major League Baseball. But I guess we'll have to see.
yeah. Pretty much just kind of waiting and seeing if other teams quickly jump in on the trend and try and get contracts done this way, or yeah, if the NHL kind of shuts these types of deals down pretty quickly because Yeah, if they let it run on for a bit, it could definitely alter the league, especially with some of the guys that are eligible for extensions right now. So
Moving on from that, Austin Matthews returned from injury on Saturday against Boston. Had himself a pretty good game. I think he had a goal and assist. It was an empty net goal, but it was honestly one of the nicer empty net goals. Big Superman dive poke check. But I didn't catch the game, but doesn't sound like he got re-injured. So
yeah,
that's
no, yeah,
good.
he was able to make it through the game a lot sooner than Toronto was making it sound like he was going to be back, which was kind of a surprise to just be like, oh,
Yeah.
Matthews is back tonight. It's like, oh well, this
Then
is
he
kind of
made
coming
it
out of
sound
nowhere, but
like he
um,
himself was saying, like, I don't know if I'll be 100% again this season.
yeah.
So
And then all of a sudden, a couple of days later, boom, he's back. Was like a pretty big shock. And yeah, I caught I was kind of going back between this game, the World Juniors, and uh, I thought Matthews had a great game. He looked engaged in it. He didn't look, um,
do against
scared to
Boston.
get in there and mix it up like anything was like, scared of re-injuring himself. Like he looked comfortable. So I think that's a really good sign that
Yeah.
again he was just comfortable, and obviously the injury might still be there and kind of lingering, but it didn't seem like it was anything that was on his mind and forcing him to only give up 60 to 70%, right? Like he looked like himself and engaged in the game, and um, it's a really good sign for Toronto to get Matthews back because again, he's kind of the at the center of that team when he's out there, and he makes a lot of magic happen when he's on the ice. So to get him back that's a huge win for the Leafs right there.
And speaking of Boston, I guess Mark Kastelik also got a 3-year extension with a AAV of 1.57 mil. So
That's a great deal for Boston to get
yeah,
Kastelik at that number for 3 years. Like this is a guy that obviously the goal scoring point totals aren't there as much as they were at the start of the year, but this is a guy that has
that's
already made an
cheap.
impact early that can show he can contribute offensively. You know he's not afraid to get out there and mix it up and scrap and get in the dirty areas. He plays a solid role in his own end. So to get a guy like that for 1.57 for 3 years uh, is great for the Bruins, and it really makes me wonder what they're going to be doing with Trent Frederick now, though, as his contract is obviously up at the end of the year, and his name has been swirling around in trade rumors. I almost kind of think if you've already re-signed Kastelik, I think he might kind of be the guy that might be the replacement for Trent Frederick. If Boston decides to move on from him.
Yeah, I could see it happening, and it's a bridge deal, but it's a 3-year extension. Like they got him for another 4 years now, and that's real
Yeah.
cheap. Like that, yeah, it's just a great deal for Boston without
Yeah.
deferring any salary.
Yeah, yeah. All of it, all he's getting that much per year. So
Yeah, you can still
um
get good contracts without it.
yeah. And good for Casta. Like I think, I think he's been a perfect fit with Boston. I think he kind of came in and was exactly what, they were kind of looking for in a player. So you know what? It's definitely the Allmark deal is not looking the best for Boston as of right now. But Castelik's definitely helping to make it look a little bit better for Boston.
Yeah.
And
Uh,
even the play Corpusalo, he's been their better goalie this year
I
somehow.
was gonna
So
say Corpusalo's
he's
not been too
actually
shabby.
he's been holding his own.
Do we only have the one other bit of news on here?
Yep, I
That's
think
it.
that's about it.
Alex Chason retired earlier today. Alex Chason, he had played 651 NHL games throughout his career with 7 different teams. It by all accounts, when he retired, everybody online was talking about him on the power play. I didn't remember it too much, but everyone was very ubiquitously talking like this guy was. There was like a 30-game stretch where he was just lethal on the power play for Detroit.
Yeah.
I don't remember it, but everyone seems to remember it very clearly. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's funny when guys will have similar to the Hamburglar. They just have this one stretch, and everyone just remembers that.
Yeah,
And you
everybody
love to
always
see it.
talks about it. Yeah, great career for Chason, retiring with a Stanley Cup, winning one with Washington. So, yeah,
Yeah, an
congrats on
interesting
a great
player
career.
because
And
he also played for the Oilers, the Flames, and the Canucks. So that was
yeah,
one of the first times I saw those three fan bases all agreeing on something when they said congrats on the career to him online. Because
yeah.
those three, all three together, generally do not get along too well. So he brought them together a little bit for this. But
But that wraps up all the latest news around the league that we have. Again, it's kind of a little bit of a slow weekend, but things are starting to pick up again. Lots of rumors swirling around, so we're going to be getting lots of craziness coming up. But Braden, before we get out of here, I have something for us.
he's got something.
So last episode we did the top goaltenders in terms of save percentage over the calendar year of 2024. This time we are going to go to skaters, and I have a list of the top 10 players with the most points in the calendar year of 2024. We're
Okay.
going to see how many. We're going to see how quickly you can get all 10 of them. Should be pretty easy. It's a lot easier than the goaltending one is. So we'll see how many wrong guesses you get before you get all 10 right.
All right. I like it. I like a
You
good challenge.
should be able to get it in, I'd say 15 guesses max to get all 10. Realistically, I think that's doable.
Okay, that sounds fair.
I think that's doable.
All right. Well, first we're gonna go with Nikita Kucherov.
Nikita Kucherov is second with 137 points in the calendar year of 2024.
We're gonna go Nathan MacKinnon.
Nathan MacKinnon is number one with 142 points in the calendar year of 2024.
I'm going Connor McDavid.
Connor McDavid is third with 136, 1 point behind Kucherov.
I am going Artemi Panarin.
Artemi Panarin is seventh with 109 points in the calendar year of 2024.
He's a little bit down there.
A little bit down there.
Still pretty good. I just thought he would have been probably top 5. Let's go Leon Draisaitl.
Leon Draisaitl is fourth with 121 points in the calendar year of 2024. 15 points less than McDavid, who was third.
Don't know if he's going to be on there, but let's go for Pasternak.
David Pasternak is tied for ninth with 97 points.
Close. Kirill Kaprizov.
Kirill Kaprizov is tied for fifth with 112 points. You are 3 players away from going a perfect 10 for 10.
It's pretty tough now. There's one name that I really don't think is on there, but I want to say it. I don't think Mitch Marner's going to be on there. Matthews has missed too many games. Let's go Mikko Rantanen.
Mikko Rantanen is tied for fifth with Kaprizov at 112 points. So all you have left is the player at number 8 and the other player tied with Pasternak for ninth at 97 points.
Man, it's wild. And I got tied with Pasternak for points on the year. I'm guessing there's no defenseman, but there might just be one or two.
I'll tell you, there is no defenseman.
Okay.
They are all forwards. That'll be my freebie hint to you. Yeah, you're just looking at forwards here.
Appreciate it. I appreciate it. Oh man, I'm trying to think of some of the top teams, top guys.
Some of the big dogs, top guys in the league.
I don't know. I don't think anybody on the Jets would score enough to break the top 10. Being on the level of Pasternak.
Yeah, right.
Like that's a lot.
Yeah.
It's nobody over in Buffalo. The Islanders. Jack Hughes was injured for a good bit last year and then kind of fell off after the injury from the pace he was on, at least.
Yeah.
Sam Reinhart.
Sam Reinhart is not on the list.
Damn.
Yeah.
Scores too many goals to get assists.
Yeah, exactly. Jack Hughes, I think, would be on this if
I
he
think so.
if
Yeah.
injuries didn't occur yet. I think he probably would have been right up in here.
The Canucks players that could be on there are tough because Miller missed a little bit of time at the end of last year. They also haven't been as electric this year. Pettersson, the same thing there. Nobody on the Kings, nobody on the Ducks, nobody on the Sharks. Probably not the Preds.
You were warmer when you were over on Eastern teams.
Okay, somewhere in the East. Oh, it could be a Hurricane. Definitely could be. I'll go Sebastian
Really?
Aho.
Sebastian Aho is not on the list.
Nah.
No.
He put up 90 some last year, I think. I don't think it's any more Bruins. I don't think it's a Senator. If it is, it's Tim Stützle. Would it be Barkov?
It is not Barkov, no.
Yeah, I know Kachuk didn't score as much.
You are at 11 guesses right now. 4 more to get these last 2.
I mean, I'm just gonna go for it. Braden Point.
It is not Braden Point, no. He is not on the list. Honestly, probably not far behind Pasternak, though, I bet. Like, he's probably in the 90s.
Man, who else? There's some teams I'm missing. Sidney Crosby.
Sidney Crosby is 8th. 98 points, 1 more than Pasternak. And the other player tied for 9th.
Guy who has 97 points on the calendar year in the East. Konechny's good, but there's no shot. No shot at somebody in Philly.
I wouldn't let you guess Konechny. I love Konechny, but I wouldn't let you guess him. You have 2 guesses.
2 more guesses. All right, let's bring up the teams. I need a list at this point.
You shouldn't have to think too hard about this. Like, I feel like when you see the team, you're gonna be like, okay, yeah, I got him.
Okay, so I didn't guess him earlier, but I'm going to go with Mitch Marner.
It is Mitch Marner, 97 points.
Okay. I wasn't when I said the first 4 and the fourth. I think Draisaitl was 4th, and his points were at like 130 something. I was thinking like, okay, that's the bar we're at. Like Marner's never had 100 points in a season, but once it was down to 98, 97, I was like, this could be him.
Yeah, it's crazy the drop offs. Like McDavid was 136, Draisaitl was down to 121. Then it drops down to Kaprizov, Rantanen at 112, Panarin right in there at 109. But then it drops down even more to Crosby at 98, and then Pasternak and Marner there at 97. So some pretty big drop offs. Like you've kind of got the top 3, quite a bit of a drop off to Draisaitl, then a drop off down to the other 3, and then a drop down to Crosby and the boys there at the bottom.
Yeah, when you're already scoring at well over a point per game, another 10 points is quite a lot.
Yeah, right.
Because like it's one thing to score 10 more in a season when it's going from 20 to 30 points, but when you're scoring a point and a half per game and now you have to improve on that, it's wild to see what some of these guys can do.
Yeah. But hey, you know what? You did it in 14 guesses. You only got 4 wrong, so that is pretty. That's a good job. That was a job well done there.
Appreciate it. That was a good one. That was a good little list there. I like that.
But that will wrap up everything for this episode. As always, you guys know the whole spiel here. If you want to talk hockey, want to join in on the conversations, you know how to do so by any of the links in the description down below. You can come to any of our different socials and check out what we got there. And more than anything, just talk hockey. Let us know your thoughts on what's going on in the NHL. Let us know your thoughts of the World Juniors and what you thought of it. And yeah, Braden, as always, final thoughts.
Final thoughts. The Anaheim Ducks are 6-4 in their last 10. They are at 38 points. They're still playing meaningful hockey. I'm not going to say they're going to
find
make
their groove a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to say they're going to make the playoffs, but they are not eliminated by a long shot.
Yeah,
Fun
I
team
don't
to
see them.
watch.
They're not going to be massive sellers at the deadline, like some of the other teams that are
Yeah,
that are.
they might
below
move a piece or two, but
them. Yeah,
they're not looking for a first, I don't think.
they're starting to solidify a good majority of their core that they're running with going forward, which
Yeah.
is exactly kind of where they should be, especially this year. Like, kind of getting that foundation set for the future is definitely, the most important thing for them right now. And man, we'll probably be talking about it whenever Zegras comes back and around the trade deadline on what may be happening with him. Is a lot of uncertainty there still, as he is still out injured, and the rumors always swirling around Zegras and whatnot. So we will be keeping an eye on that as well with the Ducks moving forward. I think is fair to say. So yeah, that will wrap up everything. Once again, we hope you guys really enjoyed. Make sure to come back on Friday. We'll be back on Friday. Again, we are back on our regular schedule now. Now that the holidays are done, New Year's is done. We are back on regular schedule. So, with that being said, once again, hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll see you guys out on the ice on Friday.